Good morning to you. Mark Stott of HurricaneTrack.com here. Time for the Hurricane Outlook and discussion. It is Monday, the 8th of August, 2022. I am on a little bit of a vacation with my wife, celebrating our 26th wedding anniversary, which is actually coming up on August 16th, but we figured probably need to get it done early because, you know, it's coming. The tropics are starting to wake up, so that's what we're going to talk about today. All right? Good to be back. Good to be with you today. Let's see what we've got here. First, get this working. Tweet here from my good friend Dylan Federico. Yeah, we have Invest 97L out in the far eastern Atlantic, and you can see it rotating there on the satellite animation already. A nice pocket of moisture and energy, some dry air around, and you can see right here a little bit of an outflow boundary that has come out. That's an indication that the air is not rising. Actually, a thunderstorm collapsed, and that sends out cooler, denser, rain-cooled air, the air flowing away like that. That's not a sign of organization, but the whole thing isn't doing that. In fact, the large envelope of energy here does have some broad rotation to it overall, and it's in a fairly favorable environment. It is early August. Things are starting to change, as Dylan talks about in the overall tweet here. It does have a healthy spin, medium chance for development. We can also see it on a good perspective here from the TAF-B. What is TAF-B? That is the Tropical Analysis and Forecast Branch. And there it is, south of the Cabo Verde Islands. Let's make this full screen. And you can really see the rotation here, I think pretty pronounced overall, this large area that has come off Africa. It generated somewhere over interior Africa as a tropical wave, or an easterly wave as we call it. The rest of this is the Intertropical Convergence Zone, which is pretty active as well. There's 10 degrees north latitude, so it's not as suppressed far to the south. And even a little bit of rotation with a little system right here. So the tropics are starting to get a little bit busier overall, as we would expect them to do as we progress through the early part of August. This is what we normally would see. So none of this is out of the ordinary. None of this should be alarming. I'm not hyping this up. It is what it is, right? It is the time of year where we expect to see development out in the tropical Atlantic. So again, don't look at this and freak out. I know people are going to be like, oh no, I've got vacations planned. I've got this planned. I'm going to Florida, whatever. Look, it's hurricane season. Something could pop up, you know, with just a few days notice at any time during the season. The fact here that we're into August, we would expect things to get busier, and they are. It is the natural progression of things. Just want to put that out there, all right? We're not overdoing this just yet. There's no reason to be overly alarmed. This is the natural progression of where we're supposed to go. All right, so real quick, Hurricane Center saying 20% development odds over the next 2 days, and that expands to 40% over the next 5 days. You can see the track here, if my slow internet will cooperate. There we go. Probably staying out over the open Atlantic. I don't like that term, fish storm. First of all, the fish live under the water. And yes, hurricanes can churn the water, but, you know, they don't really affect the fish. And I get it. It's just an expression. But there are mariners, shipping lanes to be dealt with, and even planes that fly transatlantic, whether they are cargo or commercial airliners, you name it, military, whatever, they have to deal with these systems because they do go up into the atmosphere. So even if they stay away from land and they are, quote, fish storms, they still can affect people. So even if it does stay out in the open Atlantic, there will be implications for the maritime industry and so forth. So we'll watch and see how this evolves. It's very early. Not every storm and hurricane that develops hits land, obviously, or nobody would live at the coast. So we don't know for sure if this will ever develop, if it'll ever make it to a landfall somewhere. It's just too soon to know. I don't care what model you look at or who you ask around the water cooler or on Twitter or some Facebook expert. Nobody knows for sure, not even me. And if I knew, I would tell you. Absolutely. It's very, very early. It is interesting, though. It's pretty far out here to the south and east. And by the way, again, it is 97L. The L is for Atlantic there. That's what the L, it's actually AL 97, but we just call it 97L because I guess we're lazy. All right, different satellite perspective just to give you a look at the rest of the Atlantic Basin. The Gulf of Mexico, nice and clear. Caribbean, nice and clear. A little bit of a disturbance with a tropical wave moving through parts of the greater Antilles. Southwestern Atlantic Basin, clear as well. Again, the intertropical convergence zone percolating up a little bit more. There's 97L off the coast of Africa. I believe within the next 3 to 4 weeks, this is going to get a lot busier overall. And in fact, I was texting back and forth with Dylan. Remember Dylan from the beginning of the presentation today? And we do have to watch the Gulf here. The Gulf might become a little bit more active within the next week or so. This is the time of year where systems can come up. Any piece of energy, any vorticity, an energy packet, whatever you want to call it, that exists in the tropics, that can get going with a fairly short amount of notice. They don't come out of nowhere. It's the satellite updating again. They don't come out of nowhere. We're beyond that time frame. We have satellites. We can see these develop. But, 2 to 3 days notice at a limited area. You think about Harvey. We only had 2 or 3 days before it really exploded on its way into the Texas coast. Umberto way back in 2007. So we can still get some short development fuses, if you will, but nothing imminent right now. Just kind of keep your eyes on the Gulf. A little bit of rumblings from some of the social media that I've been reading, and again, my text with Dylan. Maybe we need to watch that area as well, the Gulf. All right? Certainly a lot of moisture in the Gulf of Mexico. I'll draw your attention over here. All those oranges that you see, yes, high precipitable water values. No real dry air over there, that's for sure. But look out here in the deep tropics. This is interesting. A large, high-amplitude tropical wave there trying to curl up just a little bit. There's 97L right there with ample moisture. And some dry air trying to poke in from the northeast here. But overall, the envelope of energy out here and the overall moisture pattern is much better. The Saharan air layer, less prevalent as we would expect. Again, this is all the natural evolution of where we go. Lots of people the last couple of weeks, where are all these hurricanes we were told were coming? There's dry air and dust everywhere. The season's done. It's not. This is the normal way things go. Even in an inactive season, you would expect dry air and dusty conditions, and then it abates and you get 1 or 2 hurricanes. Even a season like 1997, we had, I think it was also Danielle or something. No, it was Erica. Erica was out in the deep tropics, I think in September of that year, the lone one big hurricane. Eventually, it will happen. You get hot days in the summer, you finally get snow in the winter, you will have hurricanes during hurricane season, unless you're 1914. Go look that up and you'll get the joke there. All right, sea surface temperatures, the departures from average, normal, whatever you want to call it. The La Nina hanging on strong in the tropical Pacific. One little band here. I say little, it's not the most significant warm area above average that we've ever seen, but it's there. And then we've got this coolish area up here to the north. A lot of different opinions on what all that will mean and how it could affect things. I will say this, if you're interested in tracking long track hurricanes that go all the way across the Atlantic and don't affect land or ships or airplanes flying over the top, and do remember, they do convect high into the atmosphere, 40, 50,000 feet, and cross transatlantic, flights, Pacific, wherever these tropical cyclones may be, they can affect air travel, severe turbulence, and they avoid them usually, obviously, but I'm just saying, again, that term fish storm is a little bit bothersome because it's not entirely accurate. But anyhow, back to my sort of thought here, and I've said this before in updates many times over the years, these tropical waves, let's use a different color, let's use blue, they come off Africa, and if they don't develop out here, or they don't develop out here, and they make it to over here, and then they develop, what are they? They are much closer to where most of us live. And so while the ones that come all the way across, your Irmas, your Francis 2004, Maria, your Ikes, trying to think back to, Gloria 1985. There's many other examples, sure. The 1900 Galveston hurricane, you look that track up, they go all the way across the Atlantic. They're long track. Ivan 2004 is another great example. They rack up the ace points and they eventually bump into land, and in some cases many instances of land interaction, and they can become very, very problematic. But the later they develop, the more chance they have to affect land at all, and even a tropical depression in a place like Haiti. I mean, it doesn't matter where it is, but Haiti is especially vulnerable, just as an example, can dump a lot of rainfall. Even a tropical wave can do that, and rainfall is, of course, a hazard. But my point is, if they don't develop out in the deep tropics, they do end up somewhere over here where they can be problematic, and they can develop in a short amount of time. Again, Harvey's a great example. Came across, developed very quickly as it came in, what was it, Port Aransas area. And that last 24 to 30 hours, it really took off. That's all you need. Michael, 2018, the last 12 to 14 hours. And Laura, not a long track hurricane. Laura didn't come all the way across and then make landfall on Lake Charles. It did its dirty work in the last 30 to 40 hours before landfall. So just remember that. They may not develop significantly out here due to who knows, but that doesn't mean that they can't develop over here, and in fact we have less time. Just keeping it real, keeping you, anchored to what could end up being impactful storms when all is said and done. Anyway, other things to point out. Very, very, very warm relative to average in the far northwest Atlantic. I mean, that's ridiculous. Almost off the scale there. 3, 4, 5 Celsius above the long-term average. That's been there since at least 2015, 2016, I think. Each summer is very, very warm in the far northern Atlantic. That affects the pressure patterns, the overall steering, whatever. And we'll have to see how that manifests itself out over the coming weeks. Another perspective, I like to look at different ways of analyzing these different sea surface temperature patterns. And this is from Dr. Richard Reynolds at the National Hurricane Center, who came up with this method where you can look at a weekly average. There's all kinds of different methodologies, background states. What is your mean or your average based on? What's the climatological period? Well, this looks at the last week or so, and it fairly closely matches the coral reef version here. As you can see, have this one area in the northeast central Atlantic vicinity, the subtropics there, below average, but you do have this band right here in the deep tropics extending off the Iberian Peninsula, kind of that horseshoe shape. Certainly not overwhelmingly cold in the tropics, and in fact, get rid of my telestration, some of these anomalies in here, a half a degree or so, quarter degree Celsius. And again, you say, well, that's not much, but when you have that much added energy, even a quarter degree Celsius is enough extra energy that you can have stronger hurricanes. Just something to keep in mind. And this neutral color all through here is exactly that. It's right where it should be. Once you get into this gradient right here, if you will, then you get into your negative values over here. Right there, that's dead neutral for the most part. So interesting that the Reynolds map basically follows the NOAA coral reef map. All right. What about actual temperatures? The Gulf of Mexico. I find it interesting that the water temperatures have cooled off a little bit. Remember, this used to be 30, 31 Celsius recently. Doesn't take much. I guess some disturbed weather in the area. It's been raining a little bit more. Maybe the wind patterns have changed a little bit. I'll have to ask Zach over in New Orleans, Fox 8, Zach Fradella, what's been going on? Why did it cool off a little bit? Now, don't get me wrong. It's not cool. It's 29.5 Celsius, something like that, versus 31. Still very, very warm. But it just goes to show you that this shallower northern Gulf water can be easily agitated. Still 31 Celsius over here. Boy, we don't want any hurricanes coming around the corner and doing something like that. That would be bad. Lots and lots of warm water there. And just to go back to this real quick, the anomaly map, that part of the Gulf is running above the long-term average as well. See? Interesting how that matches up. All right, how about in the Atlantic, or just flipping over here to the Western Atlantic anyway? My neck of the woods, Wilmington, North Carolina, Wrightsville Beach and vicinity. The water's off of our coast, Brunswick County near Hanover, all the way up through Surf City, Morehead City, Atlantic Beach, and then the Outer Banks, and the Pamlico, Albemarle Sounds, Neuse River, you name it. pretty toasty, 28, 29 Celsius. So we're talking low to almost mid 80s. But look at that. That's the 29 Celsius line. That's getting on up there to the north pretty good. And just a reminder, if a hurricane were to turn the corner and ride up the east coast, we certainly have the warm water temperatures to keep it a hurricane. In fact, the 26 Celsius line, since we last did this update, has really grown to the north there, not far at all off of Long Island and New England. I think they said they've had a lot of great white shark sightings off of Cape Cod. Wonder if that has anything to do with it. I don't know, stepping out of my lane entirely there. But just saying. It's interesting, though, really, that 26 line, that's about 80 Fahrenheit, not that far to the south of a huge population area, you know, if the conditions bring a hurricane that way. Just saying, if. You got to watch these things. All right, so speaking of watching, let's take a look at the GFS here as we get towards the end of today's update. This is from the 6Z run, and this is the kind of the moisture area of the atmosphere. A lot of talk about dry air and other things. This is that part of the atmosphere. This is the relative humidity in the middle part of the atmosphere, roughly, lower to middle third, I guess you could say. And I've put it too far out in time. I kind of screwed up here. Let's go backwards a little bit. Way to go, Mark. I kind of gave away the ending, but you've probably already seen this. You guys know where to look. But let me point you in the direction that I want you to watch, just for fun, right? Let's use black so it points out nice and what is the word I'm looking for? So it delineates where I want you to watch. That, the green is moist. The brown is not so moist, all right? Levi, Dr. Cowan did a good job coding this up. So this is the area that I want you to watch for now. This is our tropical wave, our energy. Doesn't look like much, but watch what the GFS does. 12 hours, 24 hours, 30 hours. You know, by 30 hours, it's 1,009 millibar low, 1,007, 1010, 1006, develops a closed low, 1009, and then on it goes, trying to develop there. And we can just go on out to 96 hours, a little bit of dry air to the north of it. But a real big part of this, when we watch these things try to go, and once they have gone and they have developed, dry air around a system alone isn't enough to kill it. It either has to ingest that dry air, if it's a very large circulation, and the core is exposed to it, or a developing core, or, very importantly, you inject that dry air with wind shear, some kind of an upper level low around, maybe the TUT, the tropical upper tropospheric trough, which I'll show you that in a moment. And so it's kind of like if you had a mirror and it's all steamed up, you get out of the bath, the shower, whatever, your mirror is steamed up, and you wait a while and the dry air in your room will make that steam go away off the mirror. Or what do? I've done this many times. You get the hair dryer out, you blow that mirror off, and you can watch that moisture just kind of go away. It erodes away because the dry air is getting injected, warmer, hot dry air from your hair dryer. That's the same kind of thing, just on a different scale. That's the analogy I'm using here. I guess it's an analogy. That shear is a way to inject that dry air. And if you don't have the shear, and the system can be small and develop a nice core and protect itself from that dry air, you can have all the dry air you want around these things and they don't die off. Case in point, we get cyclones from time to time in the Arabian Sea and vicinity all around those desert areas of the peninsula over there, and it's not until they make landfall that they weaken very rapidly. Same thing with eastern Pacific tropical cyclones, the big powerful hurricanes like Patricia, very small, but as soon as it encountered Mexico and it ingested dry air downsloping coming off the continent there of Mexico, well, Mexico's not a continent, it's part of North America, just saying the continental part of the landmass, dry air alone just isn't going to kill these things. Just that's my point. So we'll have to wait and see if this system can consolidate and kind of stay small. It could have a little embryo of moisture to work with, an embryonic envelope, if you will, to go on and try to develop. We'll see. This is 4 days out. We'll continue on to day 5, and we'll stop it there for now. It tries. It gets down to 992. Is the GFS overdoing it? I don't know. There's a lot of speculation out there. The Euro shows basically nothing. The GFS and its ensembles are kind of on an island. We'll see. I will go back to the very beginning. Look at this. It is there. See? It's not like there's nothing, so the starting point is important. And the GFS has a pretty good handle on that from the get-go, wraps it up out of the intertropical convergence zone there, and it's off to the races by about day 5. All right, here I will leave it at day 5 because this is what I wanted to show you. Karen, one of our supporters down in Florida, she's like, whoa, he's mentioning me. Asked me to talk about this. There it is. There's the TUT, the tropical upper tropospheric trough carved out there. Those winds right there. There's your upper level winds out of the southwest. But that's well ahead of this system. The system here, this is 5 days out. This might not even happen. We'll see. But look at all of this. This is like a huge umbrella. Nothing but favorable easterly winds with a big old area of upper level high pressure, a ULAC, upper level anticyclone, favorable. So we'll see if this changes, if it even develops at all. Does this TUT stay here? Does this kind of pinch off later? You know how it goes. There's so many variables and scenarios that could play out that beyond 5 days, you can look all you like. You might not like what you see. You know, look at your own peril, right? That's why the forecasts right now don't go out beyond 5 days. There's just too many variables. But we know that we have a trackable system, 97L. It is August. The conditions are generally favorable, heading more towards favorability as we go forward in time. So here we are. We're talking about it and discussing it. That's my job. Your job is to listen, digest it, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We appreciate it. I got a good team of us that work on this. I might be the face of it for what it's worth. But we do have a great team. I appreciate all of their help to make all of this possible because, hey, we're getting into peak season. Things are going to start to get very busy. A lot of guidance has come out lately, suggesting especially September and October will be extremely busy, and we all want to be ready as best we can. All right? All right, so yeah, become a subscriber to the channel. Doesn't cost you anything. Just takes a couple of clicks, and you can like and share the video. That helps the algorithms. We appreciate that as well. Algorithms, I've never understood those. Interesting phenomenon in the age of human advanced technology, that algorithms steer people's lives. Anyway, I want to steer you in the right direction of at least knowing what's happening in the tropics. And speaking of that, each morning, got a good record going since June 1st. I haven't missed a single day. I love it. It's awesome because it's nice and short, too. That's what's up in the tropics every morning. Try to get that on before noon each day. That's why it's in the morning. And I will do that again tomorrow. All right? All right. That is it from me for today. Have a great rest of your Monday. I am Mark Sutta. Thanks for tuning in. I'll be back with more for you tomorrow with What's Up in the Tropics.